Time is not a river, it is not a line or a wheel. Time is a breath taken in by the universe and held in silence. It is a construct, not of reality, but of perception. It only works because we believe in it, because we built our lives around the idea that one moment follows another and that everything begins and ends in a sequence. But what happens when the universe stops believing in time? What happens when, for just one impossible instant, the cosmic mechanism forgets to tick? That moment came quietly, without violence, without warning. No stars exploded, no galaxies collided, no laws were broken. And yet, in observatories across the solar system, clocks froze, only for a blink, less than a breath, and yet nothing moved. Not because time slowed, but because it ceased to exist. Aboard the orbital station Calypso 9, the event was recorded not by sensors, but by the people themselves. Astronauts reported the same sensation of feeling that time had paused, not like freezing, but like being removed. Not a slowing, not a delay, but an absence. They could remember thinking without time to think. They could recall the moment, but not place it anywhere. It was a memory with no before or after. Earth scientists called it the temporal null. For 60 microseconds, no known process advanced. Radioactive decay halted, light paused mid-flight. Conscious thought occurred outside the stream, but the data was incomplete. Some systems registered nothing. Others showed quantum-level irregularities that defied every principle of physics. What confused researchers most was that the experience had spread. Millions of people around the world reported identical memories of that missing moment. Time, it seemed, had not just paused, but collectively let go of us. We were left in the blank space between seconds, and in that space, we saw something. Not with eyes, but with understanding, people spoke of an image, shared like a dream. A horizon without shade, a sky without distance. A presence that felt like remembering your own birth. But stranger still, after the temporal null, time resumed as if nothing had happened. Clocks ticked, planets orbited, but something was different. Patterns once predictable began to stutter. Subatomic particles behaved as if they remembered the pause. The future no longer marched forward with certainty. Probability curves began to wobble. Randomness gained a rhythm. The stock market showed fluctuations that mapped directly to solar neutrino patterns. People began to feel displaced, not in space, but in chronology. Memories blurred, histories twisted. Archaeologists unearthed objects that predated their materials. Historians uncovered records of events no one remembered living through. The past became porous, the future unstable. And all the while, the present felt stretched, elongated, as if resisting the return to order. Philosophers speculated that we had crossed a threshold. That time was not linear but conditional, a consensus reality no longer enforced by the universe. The temporal null, they said, was not a glitch. It was a warning, or worse, an invitation. A message not in sound or image, but in interruption. And in the silence, something had answered. People began dreaming the same dream, a clock tower in the void, hands spinning backward, a voice whispering without sound, saying, "Remember before remembering." The world turned toward science, but science gave no answers, and so they turned inward. Cultures that never shared myths began telling identical stories of time gods who slept between ages, of cycles that reset when memory decays, of great pauses before rebirth. Physicists tried to test the phenomenon. Experiments were conducted in deep space, in high orbit, underground. But every time they tried to recreate the null, the instruments failed, not mechanically, but conceptually. As if time itself refused to be measured again, then the second event occurred. This time, it lasted longer, 8 full seconds of temporal silence, but this time, something changed. Within the pause, people saw not a vision, but a memory. Not their own, but one shared, a fragment of the universe itself. The birth of the first particle, the moment consciousness touched matter, a glimpse not of history, but of origin. And when time returned, people wept. They could not explain why. Some said it was too beautiful, others said it was too true. but all agreed it had changed them. Across the globe, languages evolved. New words formed to describe what had no name. People began writing music in silence. Buildings were designed to echo moments that had no duration. And the whisper of the past became a constant hum in human thought. The null events continued, irregular and uncommanded. Each pause grew longer, deeper, and in each, humanity remembered more. Not just personal moments, but universal truths, the shape of gravity before mass. The thought behind energy, the desire behind the void. And with every recollection, time became less necessary. People began to live differently, not sequentially, but simultaneously. Memory and foresight blurred. Communication became nonlinear. Some spoke in what they called remembered futures. Children born after the events painted visions of time's edge with uncanny precision. Scholars stopped dating history and began mapping it as a sphere, not a line. They called it the Chronos Bloom, a model where all events touch all others. In the new reality, clocks became ceremonial. Calendars became art, and still, the events continued, but no longer feared. The universe, they believed, was not malfunctioning, it was awakening. And in that awakening, it was shedding time like an old skin. Not erasing it, but transcending it, because time was never the cage, it was the cocoon. And now, the butterfly of being was unfolding its wings. Humanity did not stop the events. It did not even try. Instead, we listened. And in the silence between seconds, we heard the truth. That time was not the ruler of the cosmos, but its song. And for the first time, we began to sing with it.